We started the final series with 4 teams. We are now down to the final 3 contenders. The minor premiers, the Adelaide Thunderbirds, are the first team to book a place into the grand final after a comprehensive victory against their arch rivals, the Melbourne Vixens. The Queensland Firebirds live to fight another day, ending the title defence of the Waikato Bay of Plenty Magic. Just one spot remains in the championship decider. Who will it be, the Vixens or the Firebirds? Dan Ryan here alongside a special guest today, filling in for Catherine Harvey-Williams. It's none other than the former coach of the West Coast Fever, Jane Searle. Jane, welcome along.
Thanks, Dan. Good to be here.
Well, we had 2 terrific semi-final matches on the weekend. The big talking point, I suppose, the Adelaide Thunderbirds earning the right to host the grand final on the 14th of July.
Yeah, they certainly did put up a good performance. I think that's, 12 on the trot now for the Thunderbirds. And they've been good since round 3, really. They have set the pace and deservedly have the home final.
Well, let's recap all of the results of the semi-finals from the weekend just gone. In the major semi-final, as we know, the Adelaide Thunderbirds took their winning streak to 12 on the trot with a brilliant performance against the Melbourne Vixens to book a place in that grand final. The home side winners by 10 goals, 49-39. In the elimination semi-final, the Queensland Firebirds led from start to finish against the Magic to advance to this week's preliminary final with a 3-goal win, the title defence of the Magic coming to a close. Jane, before we preview this week's preliminary final, let's dissect the 2 semi-finals, starting with the one in Adelaide on Sunday, the Thunderbirds and the Melbourne Vixens. The Thunderbirds this year have been notoriously slow starters in matches, but they come out of the blocks firing in that semi-final clash.
Oh, they certainly did. I mean, it was close for the first half, and then they edged a couple ahead in the third quarter, but then the last quarter they certainly put the foot on the pedal, and in 18-9 last quarter was fantastic for them.
The first quarter they led by 4 goals, which caused the Vixens to make a change at quarter time. Tegan Caldwell was kept to just 1 goal by Rebecca Bull in that first quarter. Sherelle McMahon came on in the second quarter, and the old wise head certainly made a difference in that match.
Look, she certainly did. I think she's regaining her form that she had of old. I don't think she's quite there yet. I think it's certainly great to come off the bench to have a Sherelle McMahon, but I think in the last quarter the Vixens made a couple of crucial errors, and one of them was that cross-court pass from Sherelle that Shani intercepted, and I think too Sherelle just sort of ran out of a bit of fitness towards the end. She started to push through instead of finding the space that she's used to finding, so she's almost there but not quite. That
final quarter performance from the Thunderbirds was outstanding, 18-9 as you mentioned. It's a huge victory in the final 15 minutes of a final. What did you put that down to? Superior fitness from the Thunderbirds? What was it from your point of view?
Look, I think the Vixens struggle in their centre court a little bit, and I think Alyssa McLeod's been a solid performer, but I think her greatest asset is defence. When she's under pressure, I think it's her attack game that struggles. And then I think Maddie Brown tries to fill up and do 2 roles, and I think that's where they struggle, is that across the centre court. I think Maddie Brown's been fantastic in wing attack, and when she's just concentrating on a wing attack game, and I think the Vixens perform.
Speaking of the Thunderbirds in terms of performance, a couple of big performances, particularly from their captain Natalie Von Berto in the centre, one of the best games she's had in a long time. Shani Leighton outstanding at goalkeeper, and Carla Borrego had the better of Juvemental, which she hasn't had in their previous encounters. So those big 3 for the Thunderbirds really came to play.
They certainly did, and I think if you're going to win a grand final, you'd certainly need those 3 performing, and they did. I mean, Borrego was just so solid under the post there, and such a great target, and their attack end's firing.
And the home crowd there at Netball SA Stadium, pretty lethal too there at Etzer Park.
Absolutely. There's nothing like a home final in Adelaide to get the crowd pumping, and they certainly were.
Well, let's now turn our attention to the elimination semi-final, played of course in Hamilton, New Zealand. It was the Waikato Bay of Plenty Magic up against the Queensland Firebirds. This was the Firebirds from start to finish. They stormed out of the blocks to lead 6-1 very early on. From there, they just held the upper hand. Every time Magic responded, the Firebirds found another gear and pushed ahead by a couple of goals again. Yeah,
look, they did, and that was a great performance. I think not many people did expect the Firebirds to go and play in front of a vocal New Zealand crowd across the ditch, and they certainly did. And they led from, as you said, led from start to finish. And they'll take a lot of confidence from that win. That was a great win for them.
Romelda Aiken scoring 40 goals for the game. Her counterpart, or should I say her teammate, Natalie Medhurst, just the 13, but a lot of work up court from her. Irene Van Dyke kept to just 27, and perhaps there lies the difference in the 2 teams. Aiken outstanding with 40, and if you keep Irene Van Dyke to under 30 goals in a final, you're very close to getting the win across the line.
Yeah, look, that's right. And I think The Magic, look, I'm not sure about how well they feed the circle. I mean, Irene's a fantastic target, but really, I place great importance on the centre court and how they feed, and I think the Firebirds really fed Aitken very well. Like Medhurst was more of a feeding role than a scoring role, but with the Magic, I think they just let some wild balls go, and they really need to. That's the area that they need to improve on. If they can, if they stay together and they fix that area, then I think that, they could go on for another 4 years.
A big game from the Firebirds captain Laura Geitz too. I think she had 4 intercepts, a couple of deflections, big rebounds in there as well. She really stood up down back for that team and is proving to be a very good captain in that Queensland outfit.
Yeah, she is. I mean, she missed the one match and they certainly performed well without her, but when she's in the side, they're a different team. It's great.
Well, how about for that Magic team? Obviously, their title defence ends prematurely. They would have loved to have gone back-to-back for their coach, Norleen Tarua, who we know is now stepping down from the role, but also a lot of speculation about what the big three will do. Langman, Van Dyke, Casey Coppola. They've been with the Magic for a long, long time under Tarua. Without Tarua there, perhaps those three could go elsewhere, and it could be a whole new feel for the Magic in the years to come.
Well, that's right. I think, those three, certainly the other clubs in New Zealand will certainly be pushing to get one of those. And perhaps Tarua has been the catalyst that's been holding them together. So, we'll wait and see now who the new coach is going to be. But, I think it'd be a shame for them to disperse. They've been such a great team, but we'll just have to wait and see.
They've had a very good innings. The only teams ever to make every single final series since the competition began in 2008. Time now to turn our attention to this weekend's blockbuster. It is the preliminary final. For one team, they will join the Thunderbirds in the grand final. For the other, it will be good night for season 2013. This will be played on Sunday at the State Netball and Hockey Centre. A small crowd of about 3,000 people due to venues being unavailable. So a big test for both teams in this one. Pressure's on. They've met twice this year, Jane. Both teams splitting results and both away from home. So the Firebirds winning against the Vixens in Melbourne, the Vixens against the Firebirds in Brisbane. Not a lot between these two teams. It should be a cracking game.
Absolutely, it should be. I can't wait to see it. It's hard to pick either way, but as I said, I think the Firebirds will have taken a lot of confidence. They're a relatively inexperienced team, but to go away to New Zealand and perform so well under pressure and win that game and then come back, and it'll be now 4 games on the trot for them. They've had Perth, Adelaide, Hamilton, and now Melbourne. So whether that takes a toll on them, I'm not sure, but it's going to be a cracking game. What
about the mental psyche of the Vixens at the moment? If you look at a general stat, their past 7 games, 4 of them have been losses. They're coming off a 10-goal loss to the Thunderbirds where they really faded away in the final 15 minutes. Does that play on their mind coming into this weekend's match?
Look, I think it does. It will play with their confidence, but there's a lot of pride at stake there with the Vixens, and you can never underestimate a team when their backs are against the wall, and I think that's what the Vixens face this week. I mean, they've been disappointing for a few games in their last games, and I think it's all before them now, and I think you'll see a different Vixens outfit come out. I think there's a lot of pride there, and I think they'll come out firing.
Some big key matchups in this game. There's brilliant players all across the court, but perhaps a couple of key ones. The partnerships between both teams' goal attack and wing attacks play crucial roles. Tegan Caldwell, Maddie Brown for the Vixens, perhaps a little bit quiet against the Thunderbirds. Having said that, on the flip side, Natalie Medhurst and Chelsea Pittman outstanding against the Magic. But perhaps that battle of the 2 centres, Alyssa McLeod against young rookie Kim Revillion, that holds the key for both teams.
Well, I think so. I think they're the least experienced nearly the least experienced members of both teams, and I think because there are great matchups throughout all over the court, I think that the centre court matchup is going to be crucial, especially for the Vixens. I think when they lose a bit of touch through their centre court, that's when they fall in a heap. And we've seen the inexperienced Firebirds make a couple of crucial errors in past matches. So, I think that's going to be a great battle, and it's one of many across the court though.
Romelda Aiken always has a huge influence in a match, but particularly in a final where her team can score so easily. It's a big job for Jiva Mentor. She needs to bounce back after her efforts against Borrego, but anytime you face Romelda Aiken, it's a full team defensive effort to stop the ball before it gets to the Jamaican superstar.
Absolutely it is, and I think Bianca Chatfield and Jiva Mentor have been the combination for the year. They've been outstanding defenders, and I think when you can't place too much importance on Aitken though. I mean, last week Medhurst was more of a feeding role, but you know, she can certainly step up and shoot the goal. So it's going to be a combination of, you know, double teaming Romelda when it's needed, and also coming up to pick up meters because she can be so dangerous.
Well, let's now turn our attention to our tips for this week's preliminary final. It's such a hard game to choose. Although Catherine Harvey-Williams isn't with us this week, she has made sure that I get her tip in. She is backing the Melbourne Vixens to beat the Firebirds in a close one. I'm going to go with the Queensland Firebirds. I'm not sure why. I think it's going to be an absolute cracking game. Either team capable of making the grand final and certainly deserving grand finalists, but I'm going to go with the Firebirds. Jane, who are you tipping?
So you're leaving me with the decider.
I'm leaving you with the decider. Who are you backing to make it through to the grand final?
Look, it can go either way. It's going to be a great battle, but I think there's too much pride at stake for the Melbourne Vixens, and I think they might just get across the line.
Excellent. Jane, well, thank you very much for joining us today and filling the shoes of Catherine Harvey-Williams, and terrific insights throughout the program. That's all we have time for this week's episode of Centre Pass. Thank you very much for joining us. Make sure you check out the ANZ Champs website for all of the broadcast details of this week's preliminary final. Who will join the Thunderbirds in the grand final? Will it be the Vixens or will it be the Firebirds? Until next time, goodbye for now.